Over, dear participants, over to the next session. It is my proud privilege to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Samit Saxena. Mr. Saxena is a technology leader and generative AI strategist with nearly a decade of professional experience in the field of AI and machine learning. His work lies at the intersection of AI systems design, enterprise scale implementation, and the study of how human cognition and machine intelligence can be effectively integrated to solve complex problems. Over the course of his career, Mr. Saxena has worked closely with founders, senior executives, and global technical teams to define AI strategy and translate it into production grade systems spanning the full life cycle from solution conceptualization to scalable architecture and operational deployment. In his professional role at Quantify, he has been extensively involved in the design and deployment of large scale generative AI systems, including autonomous multi-agent architectures that function as end-to-end problem-solving system rather than isolated applications. His work emphasizes the treatment of large language models as foundational reasoning and orchestration layers capable of planning, decision-making, and coordinated action, thereby enabling measurable improvements in delivery efficiency, productivity, and system-level performance. In addition to his technical contributions, Mr. Saxena is an active speaker and mentor, engaging with academic and professional communities on the responsible and effective adoption of AI, with particular emphasis on designing agentic systems that augment human cognition. In today's session, Mr. Saxena will share his perspectives on the evolving definition of software, the role of agentic workflows, and the implications of these developments for research and teaching. Kindly welcome Mr. Samit Saxena. Welcome, Samit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jari. Really grateful for this opportunity, and it feels a true honor to be amongst such distinguished audience, and it's my privilege to be speaking here today. So with that, I think we should get started with the session. I will be sharing my screen, then we can get started.
Yes, Samit, you can start your session.
Yeah, just a second. I was just pulling up the screen. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah, just a second. Thank you. I think I just don't know if the camera. I see there's some bandwidth issue. Cool. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, for attending this session. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that I truly believe is the future of software development, and more importantly, I'm going to talk about the mindset that all of you would need to adopt in order to reach full potential as researchers and academicians. Today is about understanding the shift that we are already seeing in the age of AI, a shift on how software is created, a shift on how work has been reorganized, and most importantly, how problem solving happens in different areas of industry, which we will be able to extrapolate to even research and teaching. The term software 3.0 teaches us a language to describe this kind of shift. Right? I'll be explaining in detail what software 3.0 means, and then we'll connect it how it would relate to everybody out here. And agentic workflows are basically a practical way of how these kind of workflows can be automated in today's environment. My goal here would be simply to walk you through this entire change that is happening around us step by step, so that you could place your own work based on your daily activities. So moving on, let's talk about the agenda. Here's how we will move through the session. We'll start by understanding the definition of software itself, how it has changed over the period of time. We'll talk about why that makes every professional a problem solver. Then from that, we will look into what an agent is in the truest sense and why would it matter for you. And then we will look at how repeatable works could be automated within the modern day systems. without a lot of programming, and in fact, no programming at all, right? And then eventually I will talk about what are these implications of all the four things that happen. Please don't think of these as five different topics. These are all just one continuous story wrapped in different chapters of it. Nothing in today's session would require prior technical knowledge. All I would need is just your curiosity throughout the entire session. Moving on. So this is just a framing reminder that we are going to be discussing today as a technical evolution, and it's probably more than that. It would require changes in the way we think, we work, we build, right? And everything that follows after the slide flows from this central idea. Okay. Moving on. So what's our goal today, right? This slide actually is the real anchor for the entire session. Our goal is not to use more and more tools. I'm sure all of you would already have a good bit of hands-on onto the different AI tools out there. But my aim would be to explain how you all could think in terms of designing systems, right? Which means we'll be required to talk about three things, or three stages rather. The very first stage is the mindset, which is how do we think about our work? Then from that, we will move on to a practical workflow where I'll show you a demonstration of how you all could customize your daily activities into agents and how the automation really looks like. And then combining the first and the second stages, how could you use that as your personal advantage? How you could actually get the productivity gains compound over time, right? Using these systems. This slide is intentionally kept simple, right? Everyone here is already a programmer, right? When we hear the word programmer, many of us imagine someone writing code all day. But let's take a step back from that image. Every day, when you're in your academic and professional work, you're already taking ambiguous problems. You are clarifying them. You're breaking those large questions into smaller steps and sub-solutions. And eventually you will come to an outcome, and then evaluate an outcome and adjust your approach based on the feedback. At its core, that exactly what programming has always been about, right? For many years, programming was very tightly coupled with syntax, but syntax was never the essence. It was simply an interface. Today, what's changing is the interface is now moving to the human way of thinking, which is natural language, which is simple plain English, right? So for decades, if you see, programming always meant writing complex code in Python, Java, C++. And the question was very straightforward, can you code, right? Today, the very same question has now evolved in a certain direction, right? And that has actually come down to clarity of thinking about the problem, right? You must be thinking how could that be the situation, right? I'm going to demonstrate that with two particular examples today, right? That how clearly think about the problem is what is going to make the difference, right? Not how hard you work, how fast you work, and things like that. Okay. Earlier, it was very, very evident that if you did not know any of these programming languages, you could not probably build an entire application or solutions for whatever concepts that you had in your mind, right? But today, we have, software 3.0, which I'll be talking about in the next slide. It will help you create applications right off the bat, just with the clarity of thinking, knowing what questions to ask, what questions to really solve for, right? And why this is important for researchers and educators like you all is because it places the domain expertise at the center of its creation, where all of you are the masters, right? So let's look at that. I've been speaking for a while about software 3.0, right? So let me explain what this actually means, right? Stage one, which is software 1.0. This is where we actually, explicitly write code in any of these C++, Python, Java, and it's completely handwritten logic and it's fully deterministic. Another way to look at that is there is no sort of autonomy which comes into this unless you are writing explicitly into the instructions, right? I probably write a program to display, or let's say, add two numbers. It just does that. It doesn't go ahead and create a calculator on its own, or, it doesn't have a brain of its own outside the explicitly coded instructions, right? Um, then came the age of software 2.0. This was, I think, this was 2010-ish kind of age, where basically neural networks started taking a lot of traction, right? And in this software 2.0, what changed was that we were able to teach certain kind of patterns to the systems, right? Which means if I gave you a bunch of images on cats and dogs, right, you could train a neural network on top of that. And then eventually you could predict, given a new image, whether it's a cat or a dog, right? Now, if you see, there is some sort of partial autonomy which has come into software 2.0, right? And that did not mean that the earlier softwares, were moved out of the use. It was just a new way of expression or intent that we got. Cut to today, we are at software 3.0, where literally a natural language instruction becomes a program. Think about it. Like, let's say you are preparing, interview questions for a certain position, right? You just give it enough context. Let's say you are using ChatGPT or any other large language model, or any other interface. You could just simply put in your context, and then you will be able to create enough questions, enough high quality questions for you to directly use in your respective task. Now, this is the kind of change which has come, right? And natural language has actually becoming a programming language. It is not, one, it's not two. There are many juggernauts out there, and CEOs and CTOs, right? I want to talk about two of them, which is Jensen Huang, as well as, Andre Karpathy. Both are very known figures in the areas of AI, right? And both of them feel and have told very explicitly that English is the new programming language. In short, natural language is the new programming language, right? So this is what we just spoke about. So in short, if you are able to, describe what you want to achieve, what are the constraints that matter to you, what kind of output is useful to you, you are effectively specifying a program. And this is the first time in the history where, the entire primary interface about creating a software is all about human language. Okay. Moving on, let's just understand that what it means for each one of us, right? So from being an executor, all of us have now progressed to become an architect, right? Why I say that? Because this is not just a technological shift, it's an identity shift in terms of the way you approach your work. Work is moving from executing tasks to designing systems that could handle large scale systems, efficiently and in a smooth manner, right? That does not mean you will stop doing your hands-on work. That will continue as it is. What it means is that you will increasingly design how systems will have, operate in a larger ecosystems of, massive ecosystems of agents, right? Maybe there's one probably agent who is your personal assistant who manages your calendar. There's one personal assistant who manages the kind of the next steps that you have to do and acts on top of that, right? So there could be many such agents, right? I personally feel that in future, all of us would be required to have the skill of identifying what kind of agent would be required to solve a given set of problems. So we have been speaking enough about what an agent is, right? Let me walk you through what technically an agent means. So by definition, it is, an agent is an autonomous software entity that uses large language models, tools, and memory to achieve a certain goal over a period of time, right? Unlike the large language models who just respond to your questions, agents are primed to really chase a particular goal and objective and solve it till its entirety, right? So agents are really proactive in nature. They will understand the user intent. They'll create a plan. They have the capability of using tools, which is one of the major defining factors, and it lets them take action in real world, and then we'll see how that makes a difference, right? And it also has the capability of learning and self-correcting. So these are all the four, major functional components that, depending on the maturity of each of these components, the autonomy of that agent is decided. So if I have a very mature set of these four components, planning, action, tools, memory, I'll have a higher grade of autonomy. Okay. So what is really happening over here, right? If a task is given to any agent, right, it is given, and the first planning agent or the planning stage gets activated, and it will decompose the given problem statement into some smaller sub goals. Okay, it will use some chain of thoughts. It will do some sort of planning, and once the planning is done, it's now time to take action, right? Now, actions could be taken through the tools or directly through the LLMs, depending on the nature of the task. Either, it will use the tools to take an action, or it will take it directly if, a large language model is sufficient for that. And eventually, all the context that is required will be fetched from the memory. It could be a long-term memory, short-term memory. There's also a concept of working memory, which I've not shown over here, but then basically all set of context that you need to provide, right? So this is what, these are all the components of an agent. Now, what is interesting is that how does it really, boost our productivity? How could I say that, agents are really massive upgrade to our productivity? Human thinking, as you know, is really powerful, but it is naturally very, very sequential in nature. We usually focus on one problem at a time, and I think scientifically, what I would know is that human conscious could just process some 10 to 50 bits per second only, and that's the natural, bottleneck that we have, right? And I don't think so much could be done. As of till now, we haven't seen a lot of it, where we could increase this capacity of, processing this conscious thought. I'm just talking about the conscious thought right now, right? While on the other hand, if you're using a set of agents with you, you could do multiple lines of work in parallel, and you would be basically commanding armies of agents, and they'll be doing the work for you. But the prerequisite for that is for you to understand, how do I really agentify a particular given set of tasks? Anything that is repeatable actually becomes a candidate for that, right? And this is how, a lot of things that you would do, in a matter of days will now collapse in 2 minutes. And we have already seen that using, the simplest example is ChatGPT for like any of the uses that you would have been already doing, right? So what is the real question after this? The question which often is asked is, what is the cost of adopting AI, right? I'm going to talk about this through a demonstration as well. That what is the real cost, right? How much does it take? What are the skills that are required, right? But more often than not, in my industry experience, I've often asked, what is the cost of not automating, right? If I don't automate the work, which is where AI can already, they have been proven to, do things much, much, much better than humans, then are we not really, uh, you know, uh, doing injustice to what best, our potential lies in, right? So just think of, in terms of literature review, data compilation, citation tracking, preparation, teaching material. There's so much amount of time that is spent. But can I use tools, systems to, solve this out? Yes, I can, right? Um, Basically, if you look at your daily tasks, it will come down to some set of repeatable workflows. At least there'll be some portion of it which each one of us would be having, right? This has been, my experience working with different CEOs, CXOs, and through different companies, and almost everyone has certain set of automatable workflows, right? What you need to do is start looking at them in terms of a set of tasks that could be chained together, such that you know what are the instructions that you would pass to a junior, or somebody else whom you would delegate the task, and the very same mindset is what you would be requiring in order to automate a particular work, right? So lots of theory. Now I want to talk about actually building these systems. It's very important to note that the future advantage is not about working harder, right? It is. I have a very, very strong hypothesis that people who will have a strong system design or systemic thinking about these kind of workflows will be the people who would actually lead the curve, right? all of you being a part of the session are already ahead of the curve, I believe. But then, yes, I'm super excited to show you what that looks like. Okay. So consider a problem statement given to you like this, right? It's a pretty relatable one, I believe. Very realistic task, and some of you would have already, been given a task like this. So what is it? Basically, the background is that you have been handed a 20-pager foundational paper about a research topic. Let's say your research topic is transformer architecture, right? Your task is to present findings about transformer neural network architecture within 2 to 3 day time frame. Okay. And the instructions given to you by your seniors or the person who has delegated this task to you is that you need to go through the foundational paper. And he's already given one paper, which is like he or she has given this paper of attention is all you need. This is one of the, like, I think this was the birth certificate of the transformer architecture, because this was the first time they had introduced. And I think Google Brain was, had presented this paper out. So basically your instructions are that you must understand the core ideas, you must identify the influential authors, and then follow up their relevant work, and then synthesize the most important papers into a clear structured research summary, right? Now for you to do that, I think in given period of time, traditionally you would be doing a lot of searching and doing a lot of logistics and operational overhead tasks, and probably you'll be left with lesser amount of thinking time, right? It sounds very, very relatable, because almost in every domain, in one way or the other, all of us are researchers in some capacity. So yeah, so there are primarily three hurdles which anybody would face in these kind of problems. Number one, it's the time, right? You will spend enormous time of just figuring out what material is even worth looking at. Number two, it will be basically the navigation. So this particular paper has like 30 or more citations. And now what you are required to do is to understand which citations actually matter, which ones are foundational, and which are just peripheral in nature. And then the third hurdle is more about that which authors are actually shaping this space, right? There'll be a lot of authors in this particular citation list or catalog that you would have maintained, right? Now, given these three problems, it is just way too much, cognitive load. So what do we do, right? Now we are going to look at how agents are going to solve this, right? I'm going to use a tool to explain this to you. Before we go on to that tool, I just want to, kind of summarize what we traditionally would do. Traditionally is 80% time searching and 20% thinking. Through agents, we spend 5% time in searching the right and the relevant content. And this is where we would be required to design a certain system, or maybe use a tool or an agent which is already pre-built by some third party, the third party company, right? So if 5% time is spent on creating the systems and searching what it needs to search, you will get much more time in order to think and synthesize. Now, for thinking and synthesizing, the first, okay, before I move on to that, I just want to give you an overall structure that, hey, in this particular task, you already have a research paper with you. Ideally, you are supposed to read this paper, extract the key signals, identify the authors and citations. Then you need to identify that out of these respective authors, who are the most influential ones, right? What kind of work have they done outside this paper, and eventually decide that, hey, I'm just going to read these three papers, and that will be more or less enough for me to compile a set of research findings, and then give it to, like, in whatever seminar that you have to present, right? The idea here is not, I'm just taking a simple workflow here today, but that does not mean that it is only these kind of simple workflows that could be automated. For the sake of, the scope of the time and the, simplicity that I wanted to introduce, I have taken up this particular workflow. Okay. So for this, I'm going to use a tool called Langflow. Okay. For those of you who have, who have who have been coding a little bit, you could actually spin it up through your VS Code. For those of you who don't know that, there are enough places, data stacks and places like that where you could just go and register yourself and access this Langflow interface, right? Langflow is an open source low code no code platform for building AI applications, especially those that involve large language models, AI agents, complex workflows. And the major highlight is without requiring advanced programming skills. Rather, let me say, without even knowing any sort of traditional syntactical programming languages, right? So its core features are, building visually. You can just drop, drag and drop, and you can, create a workflows just like this, which I'm going to show now. Then it has low code flexibility that you can actually go with the no code, or if you have certain Python scripts, a person like me who sometimes would want to customize a certain set of APIs in a certain manner, right? I could just write my own Python component, right? I use a lot of coding assistance, and I could create that and then integrate in the workflow. And the best part of it, this is not locally served to you. You could actually deploy it as an API. You can deploy it on a cloud. You could deploy it. There are many ways of doing this. So a larger set of people could be actually using the workflow that you design. Right? The use cases are pretty common. I think all of you would be knowing this is for rapid prototyping, AI chatbots, RAG systems, multi-agent orchestrations. Cool. So now I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch my screen to the home screen of Langflow. Now, mind you, though I'm going to be sharing Langflow here. The idea is to adopt the mindset of how the system is to be created, not hinge onto Langflow. Just like Langflow, there are hundreds of tools out there in the market. All you need is just this mindset, and you will be able to create workflows like this anytime. Okay, so this is the landing page of the Langflow. So I'm just gonna go and briefly show you how this looks like. So I just clicked on a new flow, and it shows me certain templates that you can get started with certain basic templates like basic prompting, vector store, RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Then you have simple agent. Based on the use cases methodology, it has classified or grouped these these templates, the templates that are already available in Langflow, into invoice summarizer, market research, memory chatbot, research agent, so on, right? Then you have classification based workflows, which are image sentiment analysis, text sentiment analysis, likewise for coding, content generation, Q&A, right? Now, if you talk about the methodology, it has classified in terms of or grouped in terms of the methodology as well, prompting, RAG, and agent, right? Just to show you, and this actually serves as a really good way to start learning any particular tool. Like maybe you are doing Langflow today, and you may get a new tool tomorrow. The first idea I would always recommend is always look at the templates which are available. It just makes the learning so much faster rather than going to the documentation and learning. If you just pick any one of them, right? Let's say market research, right? So if you see, it talks about that, this flow helps you gather comprehensive information about the companies for sales and business intelligence. The prerequisites are Tably and OpenAI. What is Tably? Tably is basically, it's a search engine optimized for LLMs, RAGs, and the AI systems in short, right? It's very efficient, quick, and it is optimized for the cognitive systems that we are going to be designing here. So these are various components which are all, click, drag, drop, connect, run kind of, components. So this is how it looks, right? Now, you may be thinking that, hey, what is a agent? What is structured output? I'm going to explain all of that, right? You might say that, if you are configuring an agent, why do you need a structured output? Why do you need a parser? I'll tell you all of this in a while, right? I'll also tell you if you don't use this, then what happens. Okay. So if you had to clear, if I had to, create an application like this without using these kind of tools or software 3.0 or this agentic workflow, it takes hell lot of more coding for me to do and, spin up the backend, spin up the front end, and then integrate it and then deploy it. The entire life cycle is too huge. But now that's no more the case. These are pre-built components which just, help us a lot. Okay, so let me just tell you that what are the important components that you would need to keep in mind most of the times. So I'll just start with a blank flow here. Okay, on your left hand side, let's just look at what we have. One is components, then we have MCP servers, then we have bundles, and then if you want to add sticky nodes. Only two things you need to keep in mind. One is the component, the second is bundles. Let's start with components. What are components? Basically, these are pre-built elements that you could drag and drop, click, and directly, include in your workflow. Please note, 80% of your basic workflows or your daily workflows could be automated just by knowing about these three components which are there. First is input output, second is model agents, and the third is files. Right. All the other ones, you may have to use it, but depending on the advancement or the maturity of the workflow, you may choose to use it. Okay. So what is it, right? Let me just show you. So basically in input output, either you could have a chat input output or, text input output, right? It has a playground over here. So you could just, you don't need any specific software to run a specific chatbot. You can just, click on, let's say, chat input, and this becomes the chat input. So the moment you click on playground, you'll be able to put a chat input, right? Right now, it won't do anything because I'm not connected with anything, right? So this is one. Right. Then you have, data sources. Basically, if you have certain API requests, you want to create mock data, you want to connect your SQL databases, right? These are, as I said, these are more advanced ones. Right? Models or agents is going to be very, very useful for you. It has things like language models. So if you click on, okay, I'll move on. So, so if you click on just like a language model, you could just click on any of the model providers. You would be knowing like OpenAI is, one of the leading ones. Anthropic, where all the Claude models have been making a lot of noise, right? Then you have Google, and Google provides Gemini models, right? You can also spin Ollama models. Ollama is basically, for all of you, all of you who are from the machine learning background, you would know that you can spin up models on your laptop. You don't really need to, pay as you go to these kind of providers, right? So, I use Ollama a lot of times. For today's section, I just want to show you OpenAI, right? And then you can select whatever model name is, do you want in that, and you can just select that. I have selected GPT-4o mini. It's just one of the simpler, smaller models that we can use. And then there's something called an API key. For this, you will need to probably have your OpenAI account, right? And in that, you could load up some dollars and then use this, right? It starts as low as I think $5, and trust me, I mean, you will take, for the kind of workflows that I'm showing you today, it will take at least 2-3 months for you to max out $5 also. So like it really depends on the task, but the kind of workflows that are really repeatable, they don't really need a lot of the dollars for it, right? Now, input is what? Input is basically, let's say I will connect this chat input to this, right? So I can just simply connect this, or I could type, depending on whatever I want to send to GPT-4o mini, right? I don't need to bother on how this is going to send to the API. Now, for all of you, for those of you who are already from the programming background, you would know that actually I would need to have a developer account. I need to look at the API and then send my request in the JSON format to the API. None of that is there. Everything has been taken off. So as I was mentioning earlier that it has come closer to the way we think, this is what I meant, right? So I could just simply connect it. And then system messages, whatever. Let's say you could just type, you are a helpful assistant. Right? Whatever. You could just type any prompt. Okay. And then you can just connect it with what? So if you want to really create a chatbot, just put it over here, drag and drop, connect. Right. Cool. So this is basically about the input output model agents, and then you'll have some LLM operations as well. Sorry, I think talking about the language models. So after this, there's something called prompt template. This is also really helpful. Sometimes you may not want to write the entire message like this. You would want to format it properly and then eventually connect it from there. So I'll probably write my entire prompt over here. And there are enough tools out there where you could just present your raw idea that will give you a very great, a very structured prompt template, and then you can pass it over here. The reason for doing this is because it increases the modularity of your system, right? It makes it much more easier to operate with these kind of functions. And then even if you have to debug something, it becomes very easy, right? And then I think a very, very interesting concept is the concept of an agent, right? Let me show you what this actually looks like. This is also pretty similar to like a language model, but as I had shown you earlier in the deck, right, that the agents have their memory, they have the capacity of using the tools and then taking actions on top of that, right? So there's um, another parameter or another, you could say, node where you could connect the respective tools. There are multiple kind of tools. I'll just show you one or two tools also, which, the ones that you could use right away, right? And then I think the rest of the things, are not really important under the models and the agents. Right. Then we have LLM operations, in which basically if you're doing large scale runs, if you're doing in batches, you'll need a batch. You have something like an LLM selector, smart router. Depending on the kind of request, it could pick up different models. You don't have to always select one model. Depending on the condition, it can pick up a higher order model, a smarter model, a better performing model. Then another thing which I told you was important was this thing file. So you, like, in terms of read file, you can just provide a file and then it will just start with your workflow, right? So that is one. And write file, if you want the contents of a particular, processed output from language model or from agent, you can just, connect it to that. So this is about the predefined Langflow components, but does it cover everything that you need? Not so much. I would say there is another very interesting concept which is called bundles, which is basically, these are the third party components, which are directly integratable in your Langflow workflow, and these have been created by the respective third party company, right? Just to tell you, I think one of the connectors, or I would say custom component, these could be thought of basically as custom components. You would have heard of this archive. I think most of you would be using this very, very frequently as well, right? So this is basically the archive, the component that they have. And so it's got a very simple functionality: search and retrieve the papers from archive, right? Let's say if I connect this to this, and then from that, I want whatever is the output. Okay, let's just look at the output first, right? For me to just show you what are the chat output. I'm just going to connect it over here, drag and drop, remove this. Okay, then you go to the playground. Let's say my query is transformer neural network architecture. Okay. Now this goes as an input, and you can actually, and you have, in fact, I've gotten the answers also. So again, there is no hassle of you knowing the programming language, knowing which API to hit, which key to have. It is all taken care of, right? Now it gives you in a certain fashion, right? Now you would want to know, hey, I want that this should be in a certain format. So what I will do, I'll probably go back to components. As I told you a while ago, that models and agents under that language model is really important or really useful, right? Zoom out a little bit, right? I'm gonna pass the input, okay, I'm gonna connect the output directly from here, okay? And let's say, what do we want to do? We want to say, just present the name of the paper and the summary of it. Also provide some related concepts that I should research on. Okay, and what else do I need? Yeah, I need a chat output so that we could see what is happening. So it's very simple thing, right? You give an input, and that from that input, it gives you the output from, like, for the 10 search results are given to you, and then you pass it on to a large language model, and then you can ask it to do, whatever we have asked it to do, right? In terms of name of the paper we want to talk about, and then what are the related concepts that are worth looking at. So I can just simply click on the playground, right? I'm gonna start new session probably. Okay, transformer neural network architecture. Okay, so it is saying okay, cool. So what's the mistake that I have done? I have not provided the key. So I just had to do this. Right? I can retry. Let's go back to the playground. So it has done that. It has started doing this. Okay, great. So now it has given me the name of the paper, the paper title, the summary, and the related concepts which it feels is important based on whatever input that I give. Now you could do a ton of other things, right? You could format in a certain fashion. You could do a lot of other things. The idea, what I'm saying is that from idea to execution, the delta is really small. It is just in a matter of minutes if you know one of these tools, or just this mentality that creating this is not a big job, right? I'll also come to the cost aspects of it in a while. So yeah, so that's pretty much it from creating some workflow. So going back to the problem that we had, right? What was the problem that we had? We had actually, we had to solve for a particular thing. We had to solve about that foundational paper of transformer architecture, which is attention is all you need, and we wanted to design a workflow for it. Right? So let's look at how this workflow could be designed. We have now played around with some individual components, elements, and then we know what. Right? So the very first thing we would want to do is we want to put the read file component, right? Upload our paper to this. Either you can do this, or you can also use the chat input. You can directly upload the paper every time, but just for the sake of demo, I didn't want to keep on uploading papers every time, so I've used the read file component, right? You can also pass a directory if you want, right? It also accepts a directory on your system, local system, right? Mind you, right now what I'm showing you is on my local system. So like it's very easy to play around with these kind of tools on your system. And the setup time is also not very high. It's just probably a matter of a couple of hours at max if you're starting from scratch, right? So first I've given my paper, that this is the paper my senior has given me, and I want to, circle around or center around all my findings through this on the transformer architecture. That I'm connecting it with the large language model component, which we just saw right now. And OpenAI is the model that I've chosen. I've already filled in the key. For the sake of demo, I've shown you that how a prompt template looks like, right? So in reality, a prompt template actually looks like this. Okay. Like it's just more structured. It's much more structured than what I was typing a while ago. So, you're given a full research paper. Your task is to perform the following steps carefully. And this is like some chain of thoughts that I'm asking it to do, right? Basically, it has to extract the paper, author names, publications, right? And then identify the top 3 authors based on the frequency of appearance and apparent prominence within the reference list, right? I'm also giving some guardrails, right? You can actually use, I have a master prompt for myself. I could share it across later after the session is done. But yeah, you could use ChatGPT or any other way to just gather your thoughts in a certain manner and then create in a full-fledged prompt. What is very important that all of you should have in a prompt is the output format. What is it that you want? So I want a course summary, because that is a part of the task that I really have to do. Citation catalog, because I need to know who all are there in this particular paper, and then do a power player analysis. Let's read through this. What this means is that I need to identify the top 3 most prominent authors, right? Based on their frequency, their relevance to the research topic, right? And then that's how the prompt has been written, that it should be calculated based on the frequency and bibliography, and there's a and condition here, and who seems to be most foundational to the research topic. Both factors need to be considered, right? So either I can write it in a prompt template and connect it to the system message. System message is nothing but a guiding principle to the language model, that this is what you need to keep in mind. At the end of the day, it's a prompt only. Input is you can also provide a prompt in the input, but in this case, we have certain metadata to operate on, which is nothing but the parse content from this. Okay, which is basically the content of this paper, the 20-page paper that I'm talking about. So then we will basically, we have connected the chat output because you want to see how the output looks like. If you don't want to do that, just remove this part. So it will just continue to, pass it on to the next stage. Now, next stage, I've used an agent. Why did I use an agent and not a language model here? Because now I already have certain things with me. What is it? The original paper summary and the top authors identified from the power player, right? Now, what I want to do is for all these three power players, I want to identify the top three papers that they have written in the space of my, research topic. So this is what I want to do. So that's the agent that I have passed. Now, know that it would need an internet search tool for it to, really fructify into something useful. So I've used Tavily Search API. Again, this is all free. You have you can actually look. I can show it to you. Right. So there's a researcher plan, right? And you could all you need to do is just log in and take up this, researcher this thing, which is absolutely free. You do not need to pay anything for this. This is very easy, and you'll get your key over here, and that's the same key that I've imported in this, right? In any other tool also that you may use, the very same procedure will be there. And 1,000 credits is decent amount of credits, unless you're doing almost your entire weeks or months work through this. This is fairly a good plan to get started and at least learn how to design these systems and even do your regular work through this to a certain extent. Okay, I'm going to switch the tab back to the assistant. Right now, if you see, I have connected the Tavily Search API with this. Now, Tavily Search API is actually also a part of the bundles, which is the third-party component that I had mentioned, right? This is where I got it from. Tavily, yeah. So it's got an extract API, a search API. So I am using the search API, right? And then agent will automatically determine that what are the queries that I need to formulate for each of those top three authors. How should I search? So when to call? So if I've got three authors, it should be called 3 times. And then for those three, I need the top 3 papers. All of that the agent has understood just because I've written some 2, 3, 5, 10 lines of instructions, barely 10 lines of instructions, right? If you had to do it the other programmatic way, software 1.0, you would have to define proper loops for it. And those loops would have been, have to be configured in, whatever your traditional Python, C++ language, and then it would take a lot of this thing. Right now, I've just given it the instruction the way you would give it to any other human being. It takes care of the rest part of it. Okay. I don't need to specify that, hey, you should loop 3 times. I have mentioned 3 authors, it knows that it will have to loop for 3 times. Okay. And that's why I need an agent. This particular functionality is not available in language model. Language model will not iterate 3 times. It will just respond. As I had shown you in my deck also, LLMs are passive responders. Agents are proactive chasers. So they will chase a goal. So your goal is, at the end, I have this thing, return the top 3 papers per author with a short explanation of publishing. That's the goal. Now, if you have given it the right tools, it will just figure out how to use it and then go to that, right? Eventually, I'm using another, last component, which is the language model. This basically is just for identifying that what are the 3 papers I should actually look at out of the 9. See, top 3 researchers I chose, and for each researcher, 3 papers. So 3 cross 3, 9. Now, out of the 9, which are the top 3 papers I just need to focus so that if I read this, I am done with my task. I don't need to gather through hundreds of citations and come across who is the best. That amount of work has already been done. Okay, and then there's a chat output. So let's just go to the playground and let's see how. So there are some sessions that I've already run. Let me see if I could run a new one, right? And you can actually see this happening. Okay, if you come to this, right, if you just click outside this, yeah. So the first thing, read file has been done. Took 3 seconds, some 533 milliseconds for the prompt template. Now it's at the language model stage, where it is understanding the entire paper, taking out the three things that we had asked it to do, which was basically giving us the summary, then the citation, and do the power player analysis, that which of all these authors are the top threes that we should study more. Okay, it's still running. Okay, it will take its time. Okay, yeah, that's completed. It's now moved on to agent. Now agent has started. What agent will do for all the top three authors, it will start searching using this tool. What are the top three papers that they have, written with respect to the transformer neural network architectures, right? Or basically something which is very close to the core of the paper, right? Because we are passing the core of the paper to this particular stage. Okay, so it took almost 1.2 minutes and it has completed that. And then eventually it has come to the language model. So we should soon be able to see the output. And go back to this. Okay. 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 Let me start from the beginning. You remember I told you you should use structured outputs at the beginning when I was showing you the market research, right? If you don't use, I have not used it on purpose. This is what happens, that you will get an output and this output is it's not formatted correctly. So the content is correct. Core summary it has given you, very beautiful core summary it has given you, right? And then citation catalog also had asked, so it has given me that. It's just that the formatting looks a little off. That hey, what is this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? That's the reason you need to have a structured output component on top of that. Because if I had shown you the structured output, you would have seen, you probably wouldn't understand the delta. But now, knowing that this is the case without the structured output component, you would ideally want to use that. Even if you don't, it doesn't really make, like, it's just because you want to read it on the screen. Ideally, when I design these workflows, I don't, like, I probably while iterating through, the initial phases, I will, spend some time in reading through this. Otherwise, I don't, pass it on the chat output. I just let it just move forward. Okay. So it has given you all the citations, right? And then the power player analysis, which I had asked. And it says Joshua Bengio. It has appeared in 4 citations, then Kyun-Hyun Cho, Noam Shazir, right? As far as I know, Joshua Bengio is actually a godfather of AI. I think there are 3 prominent ones. And Joshua Bengio is one of the godfathers of AI. Cool. So then from that, what did it do? It passed to the agent. What did agent do? I'll just show you. So the whole input has been passed as it is. We had connected. Now it automatically created a query saying Joshua Bengio's transformer architecture attention mechanism, right? And then it has tried to find all the respective papers, titles, right? You would have been doing all of this manually. Know for a fact that you couldn't have done this faster than what this agent has done, which is 1.2 minutes. Okay. And then Kyun Hyun Cho, same, the query has been formulated. And likewise, I think Noam Shazir was the third person. Yeah, Noam Shazir transformer, right? Now it has got so many links. Out of that, it will identify the top 3 ones, right? And it will give you the top 3 ones that, hey, for Joshua Bengio, attention is all you need is anyways the paper that you should look at, right? Neural machine translation jointly by this thing. So 3 papers for Joshua Bengio, 3 papers for Kyun Gyun Cho. Sorry, I'm not able to pronounce it really well. K Cho, let me just call it him K Cho. And then 3 papers for him, and then Noam Shazir, another 3 papers, right? And what was the last stage? The last stage was actually that, hey, okay, I don't have time to read through all this. I know these are prominent guys. I know their work is good. I can't go through all of them, right? I should be able to identify that you go through these papers, understand and tell me which ones are the most important ones. If I had to rank 1, 2, 3, right? So if you see, the first one is attention is all you need, which anyways we have to read. No doubts about that, because it is kind of reverse engineering. We started from transformer architecture and it eventually told us that attention is all you need is the most important paper, right? So this is one. Second, it has told us the neural machine translation jointly for align and this thing. So there are 2 of them. I think Kyun K Cho and Joshua Benji both have the authors, right? And in the last one, I think K Cho is the author, right? So it has given you all these kind of things. And at the end, if you just look at this, you will just find the 3 papers that you need to read, right? We have already seen this. Attention is all you need. Neural machine translation, and then outrageously large networks, right? In each of them, the top authors are only, they must be a part of it, right? By the way, yeah, I was talking about the godfathers of AI. Jeffrey Hinton is also one of the godfathers of AI, right? So Noam Shazir, you could see in this paper, and then a neural, this is actually Kate. So Joshua Benju, and attention is all you need, right? Now just imagine, now I was, speaking all this while, and all that. I probably, you could say that, Samit, you have experience on this, and it, doesn't take a lot of time for you. But to be honest, if any one of you just spends like probably a couple of hours with any tool like this, not just Langflow, I'm not advocating for Langflow, hundreds of tools which are available like this, you could do a lot of your things which you are doing in daily life, and you could just outsource it to this. Now, a very natural question that comes out is that, hey, Samit, like AI, we have been reading in newspapers and everything. It's really costly, right? It's not very easy to do, these kind of things, and it takes a lot of money. And maybe the ROI is not that great. So I want to talk about that, right? Um, yeah, everybody can see my deck, right? Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that I'm speaking on the right slides. Overall time saving summary. Okay, yeah, I see a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So let's just calculate the time saved, right? Per paper, I don't want to do, like, for the interest of time, I just have one more, I have another, agent to cover with you, and which is, I mean, the most important agent ever by far, right? And I say this with 10 years of experience in AI. I've never seen a tool as good as whatever that next tool is. So I'll just cover this quickly. Per paper, on an average, 3 to 5 hours you will be saving, and this is the calculation that, paper understanding, summaries, citation extraction, author-wise literature, relevance, and, a relevance-based paper selection. Now, I could be wrong here. I'm not an expert on this field. All of you are, but know for a fact that what the answer that you got within 5 minutes, right? The kind of synthesized, crisp nugget that you got, I really doubt there is a human out there who could do it faster, right? Faster, forget about faster, can do it in, like, probably um, 5 times, 10 times more the time also given. He could do it as good as this, this workflow has been able to do, right? So what is the ROI, right? I really want to talk about the cost, and, it's a lot of times, when I speak to a lot of different CEOs and this thing, I find, cost being a lot of times being misinterpreted, right? So the model that I've used here, it is the input output cost per million tokens is $0.15, $0.6. And then the token usage is 15,000. You have different ways to calculate this. I'll probably cover this, like, probably, you can message me on LinkedIn and I'll tell you how to do this. It's approximately this paper. It's a 20-page paper. It took 15,000 tokens. Output was 2,000 tokens, right? I have calculations for this also. I'm going to skip that for now, right? Cost per run, right? Let's just talk about this thing. Cost per run for one run is 0.31 rupees. 0.31 rupees. It is not dollars, right? So productivity, efficiency, and for all practical purposes, I'll buy your statement saying, ki, Samit, it doesn't work in one go. I need to run this workflow 3-4 times and to get to all the answer that I want to. I accept that. So I will say that, okay, you will do 3 runs, right? 3 runs, 4 runs. Even if you are able to do that, the approximate time saved is approximately some 15 hours, which is approximately some 2 percent days, because 8 hours of, you work a day, right? So what's the end outcome? End outcome is, for a workflow like this, right? It takes less than a rupee to run, and this is for just one paper. Even if you do it for 20 papers, how much would it cost? How much will it cost? It will not cost like more than 50, 60 rupees or 100, depending, like, unless you pass like really, really huge paper, like there's a paper which is like 400 pages or something like that, you probably need to use a larger model for that, Gemini model, then that the cost is high. It is again not exponentially higher. If I use the Gemini model over here, it will probably take, instead of 1 rupee, it will probably take more like 5 rupees will cost. But it will not be very exponentially high that, you're just losing out on dollars and money like that. Now, this is one mindset shift that I want all of you to, adopt, that it does not take a lot of effort to create workflows like this, and the cost associated is not very high. If somebody can give me my 2 hours of day time back to me, and if I have to pay him, let's say I just have to pay him 100 rupees also, I will be more than happy to do it, right? So please, that's the mindset that I want to drive. I am really not advocating on use this model or Langflow or this. I'm just trying to tell you that this is what it is on the ground reality. Having, I create day in, day out these workflows. I do it on, these kind of no code, low code platforms. I do it, with the, production grade coding systems. I've done it with all, right? And trust me, the cost is really not a problem given the productivity gains that we are getting. The main problem is we never look at any workflow from this perspective. We say, no, we can't do AI with that, right? So yeah, I mean, that was my point. So just quickly key takeaways: any repeatable sequence of tasks can be automated. I just showed you that. Tools will change, system design mindset will not. Today you have used Langflow, tomorrow there'll be something else. 6 months down the line, I'm 100% sure there'll be something easier than Langflow. But your system design mindset will continue to give you the leverage over a given period of time, which compounds. Takeaway 3, clarity of thinking, domain knowledge are the real prerequisites. If I don't know the right steps, there is no good. Like AI can't help me with anything. I need to know the right steps. I need to know which part should I outsource to AI, right? AI should always be used to augment your thinking and outsource all the logistic and operational tasks, not outsource your thinking. Never outsource your thinking to AI. I am against the notion of that. It should augment your thinking. You should have certain thoughts. Let it mold you, let it critique you, let it ask you some tough questions, let it elevate your thinking to a higher order, way of solving things, right? I think, yeah, there's one more key takeaway, that progress will increasingly be determined by the system enabled velocity. System enabled velocity can only be found through designing these systems, right? So in each of the domain, be it research, teaching, the actual industries out there, IT, this is the common denominator. I could see this pattern in each and every place. So if you could just design reusable workflows, delegate the cognitive work to the systems and run multiple lines of inquiry, you could easily, outpace, what is the average speed in today's environments. You could simply become 5x, 10x faster, right? And we just saw that right now. Okay. Great. So that gets me to the end of this particular one tool demonstration, where I actually was telling you the kind of mindset that you need to adopt to, get these kind of work done. Now, I want to move to something else. Okay. What is this something else? I'm going to make a very bold statement out here, and pardon me if I'm probably making a bigger statement here. If I want one tool that all of you should be knowing, like irrespective, you do this, you don't do Langflow, it's fine. But in research and academics, if there's one tool that everyone should be thoroughly knowing, it's called the Notebook LM, right? It's absolutely gem of a tool. I'm surprised, to be honest, that why, how Google is about, is able to put, freely distribute this. This doesn't require any setup. Abhi, whatever I had shown you, Langflow, maybe a little bit 1 or 2, 3 hours of setup. There is no setup. Like, okay, there is literally a link. I don't know if I could post a link for you. Notebook LM. Yes. Can I post a message? Yeah, I think so. So I just posted a message. I don't know if everybody is able to see it. Yeah. So I've just put it in the chat space. So it's very, very simple. Okay. I'm going to show you what exactly this is. Right. This is the landing page that you will see. Right. Very, very useful. There is no subscription, no payment, no fees, no tiers. Absolutely. The entry barrier is absolutely zero. Right. You just need to come to this page, the link that I've shared, and just click on try Notebook LM. Right. And yeah, you will see something like this, right? And you can open, and then some of you would be saying that, hey, like Samit, you made a very bold statement a while ago. Why do you feel this is so important? Okay. Before I explain it, what I've tried to do is I've tried to use Notebook LM to explain about Notebook LM, and I'm pretty sure it is going to do better than me. Okay. So only the video overview part, a crisp nugget of 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to show it to you on what this tool has actually created, right? It didn't create it out of like nothing. I have done my research and inputs. I will talk about that in a while. Okay. There are 3 sections where there's a source section, chat section, and the studio section. I just want to first show you how does the video overview look like? What it has actually generated for me, right? So where is the video overview? Okay. This. Okay. I'm going to make this as full screen. I'm sharing my media player now. I'll play the audio also. Please confirm if you're able to see
Yes,
the
we will
audio.
confirm. Yes, now it's audible.
That's a huge mistake.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
it's completely
Please
fine.
Using it like a toy and start using it like a complete research intelligence system. The goal here, to get you way ahead of the curve, like better than 99% of people. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll cover what actually makes this thing special. Then we'll get into the fun part, building its brain. After that, we're diving deep into surgical precision research, turning all that hard work into actual content. And finally, we'll look at some real-world superpowers you can walk away with. All right, first things first, we've got to talk about what makes NotebookLM a personal research AI. This isn't just another chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini. There's a core difference, and you really need to get this to unlock its power. And here it is, the absolute key difference. You know how general AIs just kind of pull from the whole internet? They can hallucinate, right? They literally just make stuff up sometimes. Well, NotebookLM doesn't do that. It is grounded. That means it only uses the sources and documents that you provide. And this is the best part, nothing more, nothing less. Every single answer can be traced right back to a sentence in one of your documents. And that's why you can actually trust it for serious work. You're basically the architect of its little world. I love this way of thinking about it. A general AI, that's your general assistant. It can do a little bit of everything. But NotebookLM, that's your personal research specialist. It's an absolute expert, but only on the very specific topic you've given it. It's a total shift in how you should think about interacting with it. Okay, so we get the why now. Let's get our hands dirty with the how. Because look, even the smartest AI is useless if you feed it junk. So let's talk about building its brain. And the beauty here is the flexibility. We're talking PDFs, text files, website links, YouTube videos, audio files, Google Docs. You can even upload images. The real magic happens when you start mixing these things. You can upload an academic paper, a video lecture on the same topic, and a couple of articles. Suddenly you've built this complete 360-degree view of your subject. It's something you just can't do with one type of file. Okay, but what if you're starting completely from scratch? You don't have a folder full of PDFs ready to go. Well, this is where a truly game-changing feature comes into play. It automates what is, let's be honest, the most boring and time-consuming part of any research project. It's a feature called the Deep Research Agent. All you do is give it a topic. That's it. An autonomous AI agent then just goes to work. And I'm not talking about a simple Google search. It finds, analyzes, and actually evaluates dozens of sources. It even changes its strategy as it goes to fill in gaps it finds. Then it hands you a comprehensive research report, and it automatically imports the most relevant sources right into your notebook. We're talking hours, maybe even days of work done in just a few minutes. It's wild. All right, so now we've got our sources loaded in. The brain is built. This is where we go from asking basic questions like, summarize this for me, to really interacting with the material like a pro researcher. But hang on. Here's a step that I swear like 99% of people skip. It's validation. Remember, this AI is only as smart as the stuff you feed it. If your sources are old or biased or just plain wrong, then your answers will be too. So the first thing the pro does, you audit your own materials. And it's so easy to do. You just give it a simple prompt, something like create a table of all my sources with their publication date, author, and type. Boom. In seconds, you get this amazing bird's eye view of everything you've uploaded. You can instantly see, whoa, all my research on AI is from 2020? That's ancient. Or, I'm relying way too much on blog posts and not enough on actual studies. It's so powerful. And you can go even deeper. You can use prompts to really stress test your research. Ask it things like, what's missing from my sources? Or, are there any contradictions between these documents? You can even ask it to summarize the main bias of my top 5 sources. This is how you find your own blind spots before they trip you up later. Now for a technique that gives you like surgical control. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They leave all their sources checked all the time. That just muddies the waters and dilutes your answers. The pro move, uncheck everything. Then, for your specific question, you select only the 2 or 3 documents that are laser focused on that topic. The answer you get back will be so much sharper, more technical, and not watered down by all the other noise. Okay, so your research is solid, you're asking focused questions. Now we get to the really cool part. We move from just analyzing information to actually creating with it. This is where Notebook LM stops being a research assistant and becomes your personal content creation studio. And I'm not just talking about a summary. We're talking about a whole suite of automated content. It can whip up professional infographics, build entire slide decks, and even create custom audio overviews. Let's take a look at a few of these because they're pretty incredible. For example, you can just ask it to make an infographic. Look at this one. It's mapping out different AI alignment strategies. A graphic designer could spend a whole afternoon on something like this. Here, it's done in minutes, and it's pulling all the data directly from the sources you already approved. But why stop at one graphic? You can ask it to generate an entire slide deck for a presentation. And look, it's not just copy-pasting chunks of text. It actually thinks about the narrative. It structures the information logically, breaking down a big topic into easy-to-digest steps, just like you see here. This next one might be my favorite. It's the audio overview. It literally creates a custom mini podcast based on your sources with AI hosts talking about the key points. But the truly mind-blowing part is that you can pause them and ask follow-up questions. It's like having this super patient expert you can talk to 24/7 who will never get tired of explaining things to you. So that's the toolbox. But how does this all fit together in the real world? Let's walk through a super practical example of how you can use this to get a massive leg up. Imagine you've got a huge job interview coming up, okay? Normally, you'd spend hours scrambling for info. Instead, you create a new notebook, you drop in the job description, the company's annual report, and a few recent blog posts. Then you ask it something amazing. Based on my resume and their company's strategy, generate 15 likely interview questions. Then you can even have it create an audio overview of the key talking points to listen to in the car on your way to the interview. See what just happened? You just turned hours of stressful prep work into a focused, powerful exercise that takes just a few minutes. And that really brings us to the most important takeaway here. Think about it. As AI gets better and better at turning raw information into finished products, like reports, slides, you name it, what's left for us? What's the most valuable human skill? It's not about finding answers anymore. This tool proves that the real superpower, the thing that's going to set you apart, is the ability to ask better, smarter, more creative questions.
Okay, the video is done. I'm gonna go back to the main screen. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, apologies. I think the audio was not there, and I didn't kind of catch that from here. So cool. But moving on, not wasting any time here. Now, just imagine if I had to create this myself, it would have taken tons of time. But this was actually a 5-minute game for me to actually create this, right? So let's start from the basics. I want each of you to please imbibe whatever I'm going to share here, because almost every day, if you're learning a new thing, you're doing a research, you need Notebook LM. There are no two ways about it, and I'm over convinced about this fact. Okay, so maybe if you just come to, let's say, like whenever this link that I've shared with you, you could just try a new notebook, right? This is what it comes up with, right? It's loading some notebooks. I'm going to create a new notebook, right? Yeah. So the very first thing that you see out here is that it is asking for sources, right? This is the very first thing that you need to do. You can either put it through Google Drive, through website. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a copy text. It could be whatever, right? Or it could be images. Any of these particular files types are supported, which is audio and everything as well. So this makes it very, very easy, right? But you would say, hey, Samit, I don't know. I am just going to start from the scratch and I don't know what to do. So I don't have any sources. So I'll say, okay, then on the sources section, which is the first section, there's a tab out here, right? What you could do is you could just say transformers neural network architecture. Okay. There are two ways. One is the deep research way. that it will do an entirely deep research and give it to you, or it will give you the fast research. My practical suggestion, I have been using this tool for like as long as it started, like almost more than a year. It's always good to start with the fast research. Don't go for a deep research. You need to really query down or zero down on those very specific topic to do a deep research. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your credits. I don't think so there's an unlimited set times of deep research. There's some limited 5 times or something, right? So you should go with fast research. Just start on with this, right? This is in the case you do not have any collaterals, you do not have any reference documents, there's nobody who's shared anything with you, and you just starting from the scratch. So immediately what it will do, you will be able to see that it has given these different papers with you, right? What it was showing in the video overview was the same thing, that please do not import all, uncheck everything. Just open this one by one, spend some 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at max, and then you only import which one is most useful for you, right? Once you have imported, you will get a chat, like whatever, based on the 3 collaterals or the sources that you have identified, it will create something that, hey, this is what I feel is the right thing to do. Okay. And then, this is the center part of the chat. You can just keep asking questions. All your answers would be grounded or basically extracted from one of these. And if it doesn't have an answer, it will tell you that also. Okay. And these are the different studio components on the right hand side of it, which is the studio synthesis. I would rather want to show you the real power of it through the notebook that I've already curated, because I want you all to understand its power, right? So what have I really done in my notebook LM? So I have a very unique way of working, okay? And I mean, very practically, I'm telling this out, that any new topic that I learn, right, what I'll do is I'll go to YouTube. I'm actually a YouTube premium user. I just Google it out and find some top 5 to 7 videos which I find very, very interesting, right? Either in terms of views, it should be recent, it should be from most of the topics that I'm going to be, I read, I know a lot of those, podcasters, because I've been following them for a good amount of time. So I just make a list of that, right? And then all I do is add sources, YouTube link, add the YouTube link. That's all. So I have spent close to 20 minutes in order to find these whatever 10 sources that are out there, right? And I've imported that, right? Just for showing, I have also tried that notebook LM uses in research and academics. If I click, what I get, I have not imported these sources. You can view all these sources, but I have not imported this, right? So right now it is grounded. The brain that it was showing in the video overview is actually these 10 sources. So it creates certain perspective on what it feels, what is the actual topic about, right? So mastering notebook LM complete advanced, it is created by itself. I have not done anything, right? What you could really do here is, if you are trying to learn a new thing, you can select learning guide over here, right? That's, you have to configure the chat. You can also identify, with what kind of responses you're most comfortable with. It could be longer, shorter, default. I generally keep it default, right? So the moment you click on learning guide, it will then say that I want to learn about these sources through learning guide. So very structurally, you don't have to go through all of them and then, in unstructured manner, learn things and then try to combine it. It will ensure that you learn it in a very straightforward manner. So it will tell you that these are the basics. Then there's something research and organization. Then you need to know about the creative output and practical workflows. And then it guides you through like a tutor. What should be the next step, right? So this is like the chat for you. Now coming to the most exciting part of it. I know we're just about time. I'll take another 5 to 10 minutes, but I really want to cover this for you, because this is extremely going to be helpful for each and every one of you out here. So video overview you have already seen, right? There are certain components. There are 9 components out here, and there are certain things which will be common. The prompt would be most likely common, that you will have to give the prompt in terms of what do you want. Video overview, how do you want the video overview to be on? What should be the format? These 2 things will be mostly the same, right? First is the format. Do you want it as an explainer format, or do you want it in the brief format, right? You can choose the language, you can choose the style. And then what is it that you wanted to focus on, and you can type a particular topic out of this that you're interested to know, and it will just gather whatever is available in the 10 resources and create it around that. Or it can you could just leave it blank, and whatever best understood notebook LM has best understood, it will create based on that. Okay, I had created based on a certain prompt that for research and development, how, and that's the reason why when you saw the video, It was like kind of curated to those kind of things, right? Now talking about the audio podcast, if I had to pick 2 out of the 9 elements which are the most important, I think it has audio overview and video overview, right? Audio overview is nothing but you just create a podcast out of this. Very same thing. Do you want to deep dive? Do you want to brief? Do you want to critique? Do you want to debate? Right? It is entirely possible that in your sources there are 3 schools of thought. Right? You want okay, which one is the best? You will actually select either a critique or a debate. Rather, debate would be a better one. Right? It will then be able to see that according to the analysis that it has done, out of the 3 schools of thought, second school of thought is the better one because X, Y, Z, whatever. Right? And you can write all that over here. Right? And you can generate a podcast. Very, very interesting fact. Okay, I don't think so I will be able to show it to you here because I just realized that you are not able to this thing. So if I play an audio here, let me see. Okay, great. So it has created a podcast on its own, right? And it is basically on Notebook LM for academic research and productivity. The reason I have given it the prompt to create it that, right? Now it is very interesting and you can hear all 9-10 minutes. Basically, you will get the all the 10 resources are there, un sabka saar aapko mil jayega. Best points should be there, and this I'm guaranteeing you with the 6 months of intense usage that I've already done with this thing, this notebook LM. Okay, even more interesting one is the interactive mode. Okay, now what is the interactive mode? Now there are 2 people who are already talking, right? You could also join as a podcaster. You can also jump in and say, hey, I did not understand this, why did you say this? You can actually do that. Okay, I'll try. I hope that the sound is audible. Can somebody just confirm if the sound is audible after this? Okay, this is audible, right? Acha, okay. I'll just tell you what the thing is, that if you have played this and you have an option to join over here. The moment you click join, I can actually ask my own question that, hey, what do you think about this? And they will automatically dynamically shift the podcast to answering what you have asked. And then they'll go back to the original podcast, right? Which is very interesting. It's almost having a live conversation with 2 informed people, right? Whose brains you have developed by providing the resources out there, right? So this is really, really interesting, right? Now, is really for useful for understanding the concepts. Now, mind map is nothing but identifying that if I had to really know that what these 10 videos are about, then it will basically create a mental model that, hey, it is about core functionality, input sources, studio outputs, advanced workflows, use cases, and you can just simply click on this and find that. Anytime you click on this particular thing, it will tell you that where in the actual of these 10 sources has it says that it is grounded by AI, right? So it will define all these key features and it will give you all these numbers. And this number is nothing but the number of the actual serial number of the video or the input that you have given, right? So it is all grounded. It is very, very straightforward, right? So I think this is pretty clear, right? You can just, I'm just going to skip this for now, right? In the interest of time, you can download this as well. It's very, very simple. Going back to the next one, reports. Now, reports is extremely common in research and academics, right? Now, whenever you click on research, any kind of research based on these 10 sources could be created, right? It could be a briefing doc, it could be a study guide, it could be a blog post, strategic memo, so on and so forth, right? In my case, what I did was, where is my report? Yes. So onboarding guide for leveraging notebook LM. So the prompt that I had provided was, I don't know if it's visible. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. Develop a detailed onboarding guide for professors and research analysts explaining how to use pre-configured notebook LM. This again, I had given some brief idea, used ChatGPT to get a proper prompt and then given this, right? And now it has given that entire report to me, right? So you can create your own, whatever you want. It is like in the last workflow, line flow, I was showing you how to create custom workflows. Isme, it is custom built for research purposes. Almost everything that you would want, you could find it available over here, right? So this is reports. Flashcards and quizzes are very it is very interesting and I find it pretty useful. But again, this is like if you are teaching to your students and you would want to create some quizzes, right? You would want to ask them certain set of questions, like you have past question papers and you want to create new questions. All of that could be done through this. Like it will give you certain fundamental principle for, I don't know. Yeah, this is the right answer because it grounds your this thing. So it is very, very easy to create this, because you have just given the input. All of this on the right is just, you have to just click one of the 9 buttons and it will create that for you. Okay. Likewise for flashcards also. Infographic is really, really helpful, at least in the industry that I am in. We speak to a lot of clients, we do a lot of work. So there's a time crunch. There's a huge time crunch. A lot of things to be, the best technical guy does not know how to create the best PPTs. The person who knows how to create the best PPTs does not know the best technicals to be explained. Now, as Samit Saxena, who's a technical guy, if I have infographics with me and I have already used that and I keep using it, I get to explain the best quality pitch using infographics, right? What is infographic? It basically, you can, same concept, right? What language do you want? What is the level of detail do you want? My suggestion, if you're using it at least now or probably a month from now, try avoiding detail, because detail pe some spelling mistakes it will do, and you will be able to see that these are spelling mistakes and they're evident. So concise and standard are working really well, and that's the reason probably detail is in beta. And then you can describe whatever you want. So in my case, I had described, I am explaining it to, all the professors and, all the distinct faculties, and for them I'll show you. This is how it is looking like, right? So it has just told me that how to streamline an academic workflow from initial research to final publication. So it has just created, and it just becomes so easy, because if somebody can create this for you in 2 minutes, talk track is not a problem, because I already have the domain knowledge. I'm connecting it back to what I was talking about in the very beginning. Domain expertise and clarity becomes, you should know what to do. For all these, creation of these two, collaterals, you have things. Likewise for deck also. A confession, an honest confession by Samit Saxena. The entire deck that I had shown you is generated by NotebookLM. I have grounded it in my sources and my intelligence, but the deck was entirely created by NotebookLM, right? Even this, you can create as many as you want. It's not just one, right? So I could just show you, like, research clarity with NotebookLM. So again, I had given it a prompt, create a high level outline talking about features of NotebookLM for researchers in academics. So उसने एक मेरे को deck बना के दे दिया, right? Again, I will not go through this, but it is beautiful, and most of the times it is very, very, like 90% onto the mark. 10-20% you have to make changes, right? Last but not the least, very good feature, data table. Now I have so many different things. A lot of people like myself like to view things in tables. I somehow, appreciate tables more than, a document, right? So you can just add what parts of the data do you want to focus on, and then it will eventually create a data table for you. Like in my case, if you see this, it has now actually created a feature name like advanced workflow and feature comparison. So all the features it has put down, the source type compatibility, output format, customization. So technically, if I just read this, I don't need to go through any of those resources. Pretty much covers 90% of it, right? Again, very useful. Okay. So I would highly urge everyone, to please look at this and, try this out. Try it out on daily basis. The more you use it, the more addictive it is. I mean, and that's something that I've also felt, right? So just as I wrap up, I just would want to leave you with just one final thought that, the future is not about using AI tools as co-pilot only. That's very important, but it's the beginning, right? It's the beginning of something much bigger, right? It's going to be a future where all those who can design, orchestrate, identify which tools, when to use, right? That human judgment, that is going to be the most indispensable part. Clarity of thought is going to be the indispensable part. Agents will do the work for you, that's for sure. Of course, entire research nobody can do, but they'll help you out with doing it faster, right? So yeah, I mean, honestly, I just feel that all of you being a part of this FDP session, all of you are already ahead of that curve. You knowing about this particular tool that NotebookLM exists itself, you are already at the 90th percentile, given the entire set of people who are eligible in this cohort, right? So I genuinely wish, all of you the very, very best in the journey ahead. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for all the great contribution that all of you have been making, and, basis which the entire industry stands. So we are, very, very indebted to you. And yeah, just thank you so much for that. And feel free to reach out to me if anybody wants to, have a deeper conversation anytime, right? You could probably just, scan this QR code and connect with me.
Priyanka, can you come online for a formal vote of thanks?
So your insightful presentation provided us with a deep understanding of how generative AI can be effectively applied to enhance research workflows and teaching methodologies. The practical examples, innovative strategies, and ethical considerations you shared with will undoubtedly inspire the participants to integrate AI responsibly and creatively into their academic practices. We sincerely appreciate your patience in addressing everything, and your expertise has significantly enriched the learning experience and added immense value to this particular FDP. Once again, we convey our heartfelt thanks to you for your time, knowledge, and guidance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Samit, for this
Thanks.
enriching session for all our FDP participants. Surely, and I think with the knowledge level that you have given, all our participants would like to keep in touch with you. It was great having you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johari. Had a great time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.